2020, what a year. But we're halfway through it. More people than ever are on their phones. More people than ever are reading, and stories continue to move hearts and minds. So, what does that mean for authors? Let's talk about it. This is The Writer's Journey. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Moore, and with me is the fabulous Kayleen Williams. And tonight we're talking about book sales figures across genres, platforms, and global markets. We'll talk about the markets that are expanding, speculate as to why, and look forward to the second half of 2020. What steps should we be taking to take over the publishing world? Our guest is the founder and CEO of PublishDrive, the only easy-to-use software for authors and publishers to distribute and manage ebooks, print, and audiobooks under one roof. Founded in 2015, based out of the US and Europe, PublishDrive makes publishing easier than how it's traditionally done. Publishers and authors have published over 100,000 ebooks with PublishDrive, with access to over 400 online stores and 240,000 libraries in 5 continents. Kinga Jentetics, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to the show. It is a great introduction, so thank you for that, Lauren.
Oh, thank you. I practice very hard.
Cool.
She does way better at that than I do.
No, you are fantastic too, Kayleen. You are. And we're so excited to have you on, Kinga. This is the middle of the night for you. You're in Hungary, right?
Yes, I'm in Budapest right now, and it's 3 a.m. in the morning, or during the night. It depends on what kind of person you are. But I'm trying to be 100% on, and I hope that you don't see that it's 3 a.m. in the morning right now on me.
You're sacrificing sleep for us. That's how real love is spelled. So I appreciate it from the heart.
And anytime.
Oh, thank you. So our first question for you is just if you could introduce yourself to the audience, tell us a little bit about how you got into the author community and how you started PublishDrive.
Sure. So as you mentioned, we started back in 2015, and I actually wanted to publish my master thesis. And I have actually background in business and marketing, and my master thesis was about how music can influence the image of a country topic. But I had the feeling that people would be interested in actually reading it. And I struggled a lot how to publish it worldwide in different markets, because as I actually come from Hungary, Budapest, there are different options available. And also Amazon is not the most dominant market. So I started to see how it can be done way much easier with the widest reach. And I struggled with all the tech stuff as well in the beginning. But then when I finally made it through and I published it, I could see that people were buying it, from the US, from Brazil, from Mexico, so basically from all parts of the world. And it was just amazing to see how readers can get into any kind of content. And, it wasn't really professional when I published it in the first time. And I just realized that there should be other people who are struggling with the same kind of problems as I did. So with my co-founders, who are actually, I know from the university, we started to work on the idea of PublishDrive, and they are tech guys, so they are more into data and engineering. So we made the dream team to make PublishDrive happen because they know how to code and how to make great systems, and I help more on the business side. And that's how PublishDrive started.
That is so cool. So you saw a need and you went to fill it.
Yes, definitely. And it was actually my need as well. So I totally can relate to any kind of author's needs. And from the very early on, I had this kind of vision to help authors in every step of the publishing journey.
So what exactly is PublishDrive?
Yeah, PublishDrive is a publishing platform where you can have different digital tools for you to help you succeed in your publishing journey. And we work with a lot of indie authors, as you mentioned, but in the very beginning, as we started out, we had a lot of even traditional publishers working with us. So we actually learned from the traditional industry what can be done in a good way, and also what can be improved. And today we work with thousands of indie publishers and indie authors as well. As you mentioned, with more than 100,000 titles. And we actually provide different tools for the different needs. So we actually built 2 different products to help indie authors succeed. One of them is PublishDrive distribution, which is about, as you mentioned, distributing content and selling content all over the world in more than 100 countries with more than 400 distribution outlets and thousands of digital libraries as well worldwide. So we basically connect books with all the major retailers like Apple, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Google, and so Amazon, and so on, but with a lot of subscription models and digital libraries as well. And we provide a lot of marketing tools for authors, because we could see that it's really cool to publish and sell your book in different platforms and in different countries, but then how you can sell more and how you can make it happen and how you can make it more visible. So we built marketing tools to support that kind of need. And there is a lot of cool analytics within the platform, what you can see, and you can actually dig into your own data if you are a data person or if you are a geek author. I met a lot of geek authors, so I hope they enjoy that feature. And on the top of that, we could see that distribution is great, and the indie authors and in the indie community really love it. But also we could see another need when it comes to indie author community and indie publishers, especially, that royalty management is a pain in the ass to do. And especially if you are working with co-authors and with a lot of other authors. I actually talked to many authors who said that they needed to open a shared bank account to have everything figured out on the financial and royalty management side, which sounded too much work to do and too much work to do instead of writing.
That'd be super intense, man.
And then we basically built Abacus, which is the royalty management software for the indie author community. And it basically helps you to share your data with the co-authors, but also to do the math and basically do the royalty splitting for your authors. And it's totally transparent, and it's pretty cool to use and pretty easy. And there are a lot of indie authors who already use it.
So I have a quick question about the Abacus, because that's something that is intriguing to me. Sure. Do you need to be published on PublishDrive in order to use said Abacus?
No, you don't have to. So it's totally independent from the distribution platform. And we built with the idea in mind, actually, that if you are in Kindle Unlimited or in the KDP Select program, you actually can use Abacus pretty easily. So that was the basic idea, because we met a lot of Kindle Unlimited or KDP Select authors, and they said that, oh, they have this kind of need. And we built actually this feature first in our distribution product, and then a lot of authors reached out to us that, hey, I'm KDP Select, can I still use this feature? Yeah, and then we basically made it happen. So we said, okay, there are so many authors who would love to use that, and we already have it actually, working in our distribution product. Let's make it totally independent and separate. So right now it's a standalone product, what you can use, and it's actually working pretty well if you are only on Kindle Unlimited.
How does it work exactly? Like, do you hook it up with your bank account and hook it up with like the Amazon sales?
Yeah, so basically you can upload your reports from Amazon or from other platforms as well. So it works for Ingram, it works for Google, Kobo, with PublishDrive, so with a lot of other platforms as well. And also it works for ebook, print, and audiobook as well. So you can actually upload your ACX reports, so everything what
so
you may have.
A separate document, plugging it in there. Abacus does all the math, and it's just like, here you go. Here's the magic for all the things you fed me. I love that. Yeah. Oh man. Hopefully
excellent. That takes a huge burden off because, like, the math, that's the hard part. Grammar, we can sort, right? But the math, oof.
Yes, I totally see you.
Well, speaking about math, we want to hear about book sales numbers for the spring. 2020 has been crazy, and while we might not understand when we'll be able to get on an airline again, if we'll be able to be in 20 books in November, we were talking about that before the show. We might not be able to know that, but what we can know is how have the book sales in the spring been going, and what are the trends that you're seeing, and where do you kind of see those trends going? So, Kinga, what are some of the trends you're noticing in book sales?
Yeah, so first of all, as you mentioned in the very beginning, people actually read more. And especially during the lockdown, we could see a huge spike in overall digital book sales. So you can imagine that everyone, when stayed home, they needed to stay home, and they couldn't actually leave their home. Everyone was looking for entertainment options, and reading was one of them. Of course, there were other, options, like I'm sure that everyone was on Netflix more than usual as well. But we could definitely
for a few puzzles. I could not find a puzzle to save my life. Okay, sorry, interruption.
No, please. And also, we could definitely see that there was more than a 20% monthly increase on digital book sales during the lockdown period, which was huge.
That is
so yeah, it was insane, and it was not really according to the trends and seasonality what we've seen before. So it was way higher than usual, because we already looked at the different trends and seasonality back in the few years as well, what we could actually track, and it was totally against that kind of seasonality. So yeah, we actually analyzed our sales data. So as you mentioned, Lauren, we have more than 100,000 titles available all around the world. And yeah, that's quite a large database to look at. And we analyzed our data monthly as well. And we actually create a report so everyone can see what's going on, and it's available on our blog. Because we believe that during this whole COVID-19 situation, when everything is so uncertain, we wanted to give more information. Everyone can see what's going on and what they actually could do if they want to change that strategy. And also we talked to many of the retailers we work with, and to confirm the data with them, whether they actually see the same trends or something different. So that was a really good conversation with the retailers as well, and also with a lot of authors or publishers who read the report. It was super cool to see what they actually are seeing on the market, and how we can make it better for authors who are starting out right now, or who actually wanna make more money.
So I'm curious, in no particular order, because I don't want people to be like, I need to write in this genre then. What would be like the top 4, I guess, or top 3, in no particular order, that were like the most popular? I'm curious.
Yeah, sure. Especially when the lockdown happened, we could see that a lot of schools and a lot of universities were locked down as well, and there was a huge spike in nonfiction, especially in educational titles in the very beginning. Actually, a lot of libraries were rushing to us, and they were like, "Oh, we need more content. Do you have anything more?" And we were like, "Okay, please, stay calm, keep calm. We are trying to help you as well." So that was insane. So everything what was actually related to a young adult, audience or educational type of content was selling really well. And we talked to other retailers, and they actually confirmed that whenever there was an educational content, they actually prioritized this to publish faster in the very beginning. And then we could actually see from fiction titles, we could see in all the time that fantasy was going really well, especially epic fantasy or fantasy and magic, and also young adult fantasy. So that also supports the fact that everything what is related to younger audience that actually can go really well during this time. We could see a lot of thrillers surging and increasing, crime and psychological thrillers especially, and then science fiction is going hugely, really well right now. And yeah, when it comes to book sales, I'm sure that everyone knows that romance is one of the best-selling genres all the time. And especially we could see a huge spike in romance, and which actually has some science fiction in it as well, and also billionaire type of romance. So that's also a trend right now.
I think I read that readings up 6%, or ebook sales are up 6%. Was that in May? It was during the spring, and I was kind of wondering if you're seeing that number still high, or if it's kind of declining in June.
Yeah, so what we could see that in May, the growth was flattening a bit. So before it was a 20% monthly increase. Then in May, we could see, I think, 5 or 6% monthly growth rate. But compared to last year's data, it was 60% growth. So compared to last year's May, it was 60% more actually than last time. And in June, well, we can see that the growth will be actually flattening a bit, because obviously countries and the world basically is waking up and opening up in many ways. And also there is a trend. So when I analyzed last year's data, I could see that usually June is the weakest month in the second quarter in terms of sales. So that also can be another factor why June is not performing that well. But also what we can see that after that, July and August is usually really strong in book sales, because everyone is going on vacation. It will be really interesting to see how it will perform this year, because still people will go on vacation, I'm sure, but they might not travel that much as before. So I'm curious what will happen in July.
That's kind of a tradition to bring your book to the beach. And now if we're kind of all stuck in our little like beach blankets, social distancing or whatever, it'll still be you with your book on the beach. So hopefully that'll be good for sales.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, usually it's really good for sales when it comes to July and August. So I think it will the trend will continue on that part. That's for sure. But also it will be interesting to see whether how the whole COVID-19 situation is changing in time, and how it might affect the book sales. So we definitely will continue analyzing our data and publishing reports about it, because as I mentioned, it's the number one priority of us right now to give more knowledge to people and more information, because everything is changing so fast. If you can imagine, and in the last couple of weeks, basically our whole world is spinning. So to get the information as fast as possible, I think it's really, really, really important today.
You said the sales figures are up 60% from last year. Do you attribute that to PublishDrive's growth, or growth in like the markets? More people are reading, and more countries are getting into online reading.
Yeah, it's mostly because when I analyzed last year's trend as well, it's actually above the growth rate what we experienced before. So we believe that it is obviously to PublishDrive's growth as well. So it is definitely a factor, but there is another factor that people actually are reading more. And when we talk to the retailers as well, and we try to see what they actually are seeing, they definitely mention that more people are reading, and also those people are reading more frequently as well than before. And there are new specific target groups or target audiences that appeared, or even who are actually more heavy readers right now, especially in the scene or in the segment of the people who were traveling before all the time, and they were on the road and they were actually experiencing a lot of outdoors activities and or travels. But now they cannot travel that much, so they try to improve themselves. So that's why there is a lot of nonfiction books which are selling really good at the moment. And it is actually above the usual trends as well, how they are selling, because there is another group of people who actually are reading more heavily than before, and they want to get new experiences, but they cannot actually get it through travel. So they travel to another world through books, basically.
Yeah. What are some of those demographics that you're seeing growth in, reading growth?
Yeah, so this is definitely one segment. Based on the retailers we talk to, we definitely can see that segments who are staying home, and they actually are like families, and especially not just women but also men who are staying home, and they want to educate themselves about health and about family and relationships, because we could see that those type of categories are selling really well as well. And they want to, basically, if they have any problems at home, because everyone knows that when the whole family needs to stay home, that it's a different kind of situation, and a lot of people were struggling with it. So they needed some help as well, how to solve those problems, or how to get through this whole period. And we definitely can see that those sales are still growing, even in May and June.
So if anyone's planning on writing that nonfiction book about peaceful family relations, maybe now's the time. If there's the market that's willing. What does this mean for fiction authors? Like what trends, or how can we use some of this information to figure out like how we can write a better book, or a book that the market really wants?
Yeah, we definitely advanced books during the whole lockdown period. So you can imagine that having any kind of romances or dates or any kind of stories, what can happen during a lockdown is totally different than before. So actually, when in the whole COVID-19 emerged, we actually could see a lot of romance sales coming through, which were related somehow to any kind of pandemic before. So that was interesting to see. And also we could see more books coming to the platform as well, which were related to romance stories during the social distancing. So it was definitely a trend. But as I mentioned before, I believe the biggest trend, what we can see in terms of growth for fiction titles, is definitely in fantasy. And we can see that kind of trend already started in the very end of 2019, so in December already, and it continues to grow. So any kind of fantasy, especially epic fantasy or young adult fantasy, or fantasy and magic, they are really good genres to write in and publish in right now, and it will actually continue to be good in the rest of the year as well, as far as we could see from book sales.
That's good news, huh, Kayleen? We keep on hearing authors saying, I want to write that fantasy book, but I don't know if the market's ready for more fantasy. And now, Kinga, you're saying.
I keep getting ideas for fantasy. I'm just like, maybe I should continue in the universe that I spent so long, developing. Just do it.
Yeah, and actually, I talk to many authors as well who write fantasy, and yeah, as you mentioned, they not just write fantasy but other genres as well. And they were like, oh yeah, I'm not sure whether it's the right time. And I think right now is the right time. And I'm actually really into fantasy as well. So maybe I will write. And I will finally finish and write some fantasy books this time as well.
You do it, Kinga. And when you do, come back on the show and tell us all about it. How you did it, what your book's about. We want to hear.
Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely, I will do that.
All right. Well, in a moment, we're going to ask you about trends in the international market and what you see happening around the world. But first, we have a book spotlight.
Boom, boom, boom. All right. This week's spotlight is on The Writing Dream and How to Make It Too Happily Ever After by Lauren Moore, Josh Hayes, and Scott Moon. Writing, something you've always dreamed of doing, but there's just not enough time. Or maybe you've already written a book or 6, but they aren't doing well. With nearly 50 million books on Amazon today, what can you do to make your book stand out? From the popular podcast Keystroke Medium Live, Josh Hayes, Scott Moon, and Lauren Moore pan the gold from hundreds of author interviews, anecdotes, tips, and advice from authors across the publishing spectrum and all over the globe. We've chosen the very best of it, time-tested and proven successful, backed up by our personal experience. Whether you can't find the time to write, you don't have a clue how to market, or you just need to fine-tune your process, there's something for you in this book. Click buy now or doom. Because we always have doom. And we must doom to doom, doom, doom.
Yeah. Thanks, Kaylee.
You're welcome.
All right. So those international markets, we're used to publishing on, in the US, we're used to publishing on Amazon to the US markets, but there's so many new and exciting markets opening up around the world. Which markets do you see on PublishDrive that are just kind of growing leaps and bounds?
Yeah, international markets are actually growing for all kind of retailers as we talk to them and as we can see on the sales numbers as well. So that's one of the aspects where basically everyone wants to grow because that's where they can see the biggest growth coming in. And it's really cool to see which countries and markets are selling more and more continuously. We could definitely see that bigger markets like Germany, for instance, they are selling really well. But also during the whole year so far, we could see France and Spain are really strong in book sales, and especially when it comes to growth. And this is more on the European market, but when we look the whole world, we can see that Latin America is catching up a lot. So Mexico is insanely selling well right now, and it's getting more and more in terms of sales. And also Brazil or Chile, for instance, they are selling really a lot of books. And also on the Asian market, it's super interesting to see that India is one of the major markets. Also, China is really interesting, and getting published there is not that easy. And also, we could see Southeast Asian markets, which are selling really cool content, and also a lot of sales. For instance, Indonesia or the Philippines. And yeah, if you think about those markets, they have more than 100 million people and so on. And those markets actually are heavily relying on mobile devices. So I actually went to a Southeast Asian tour a couple of years ago, and at that time already, they were totally different in terms of how they are connected to the world. So everything was mobile first. Basically, they skipped the part when you are tied to your laptop and so on. Everyone is doing mobile basically they are working on their mobiles all the time and tablets, and that's a different kind of culture, and it's super interesting to see how they are developing, and their growth is really a constant thing in the last couple of years.
Now, are they reading in their own language, or are they reading English on their phones and other?
Yeah, they are reading definitely English as well. So what we could see that from English language titles, more than 40% of the sales are actually coming outside of the English market. So that's a super high number, and you can sell English language books now basically everywhere around the world. And also we are getting more interest every day from different retailers, even in Europe or in Asia, which are actually looking for English language content because they are expanding. So it's a huge trend where we can see that more English language content is being sold outside of the major English language markets. But also they read in their native language as well, obviously. So we've seen a lot of translations as well within our platform, especially for the bigger languages like Spanish, or even we have Chinese content as well. But when it comes to India, for instance, where English is a major language, it's definitely not a problem. So many people are actually searching and reading in English. And that's what we can see in other markets as well, especially with the new segments who are opening up and who are interested in content that they are reading in English as well.
I'm also hearing that definitely ebook is just like getting up there. As far as what you're saying, yeah, if you're a new author out there, definitely figure out the ebook stuff. Because when I first published, it took me 2.5 years before I made it an ebook. I did paperback first. But yeah, definitely I'm seeing trends toward ebook are skyrocketing.
Yes, and as we started to step foot into the audiobook market and also to the print-on-demand market, we start to see more sales coming through there as well. So we just started a few weeks ago. So it's still not as advanced as our ebook distribution currently, but we have a lot of channels already integrated, so that when we see all the sales coming through, we will publish those trends as well, what is happening with the audiobook and print-on-demand sales, because we can see that those markets are definitely shook as well with the whole COVID-19 situation. And also when we talk to retailers, they also say that especially audiobooks are really great, and we can already see a huge increase in our audiobook sales numbers as well.
Well, if I was learning a second language like Spanish, one great way would be to have the ebook right there and the audiobook too, and kind of listen to a native speaker read it while I've got the words in front of my face. And I think together that would teach me a lot. So I can see this being an excellent English learning opportunity around the world. Now, if you've got an author who hasn't published before, maybe if they've got a couple books that they're waiting to publish, how could they use PublishDrive to reach those international markets with their new book that they'd like to publish? Like, how do you use it?
So basically, when you sign up to PublishDrive, you can upload any kind of format, so ebook, audiobook, or print on demand. There are some tools for you to help you during the whole formatting or conversion part as well. So we have definitely on that end. And then we provide you with some metadata improvement tools as well, because when it comes to selling books, it's basically tie to what kind of data you actually can tie to your books to help the algorithm of the different retailers and different platforms to make your book more visible. And that's why we built an AI which helps you to categorize your title based on the content, what you wrote, because we've seen that there are a lot of authors who are struggling with that. So whenever you upload a book into PublishDrive, we have an AI robot called Savon who is reading the books in the backend and suggests you categories based on what he can actually read. And that's something what we wanted to give, because we could see that if you don't have the right metadata is basically every kind of information that is tied to your book, then your book sales might not happen that well as you predicted or you wanted to have. So that's super important. And then also you can price within PublishDrive based on any kind of currency and markets as well. So we actually have the three major prices listed first, but you can dig into any kind of countries and regions and currencies, and you can change your local price if you want to. So it's totally up to you what kind of pricing strategy you want to actually continue or follow. And also you can select your stores where you want to sell within PublishDrive. So there are a lot of markets and a lot of local players which are focusing on some specific markets, and you can get your titles there. And also we actually have marketing tools, as I mentioned, and there you can see campaigns for different stores in different countries, but also if there is a specific language with what actually stores are looking for, and it's mentioned there as well. So there are campaigns for Spanish or, I don't know, Romanian or whatever languages that different stores are looking for at the moment, because that's where they want to actually run a specific campaign. So for instance, with Apple, we work in a way that we suggest a lot of English titles to the US or UK or Australian store, but also we suggest them other languages, so Spanish, French, or other kind of content what we can see that might fit into their merchandising calendar or might fit into the specific categories they actually are looking for to get any kind of books featured. And that's definitely helping when it comes to book sales to get featured in the stores. And or readers, when they are searching for content, they already see your book as a suggestion on the front page of the store. And then obviously it can help book sales.
So it sounds like you've got a lot of information that the author would need to know right as they publish. You know, what genre am I in? What's my target market? If I want to publish to an international audience on the international, like Amazon in India and Amazon in France or Germany, I'll need to know what price point to put it at. Because if my book's selling for $2.99 over here, that might not translate very well into pesos. It might be a very strange looking number in pesos or in rupees or something. It might look very odd, or it might be ridiculously expensive over there, and I would have no idea. Right? I don't know what's good. So it's great that you're kind of suggesting some of that. Of course, I need to do my research to know it for myself, but that little extra tip, that little extra help can help me to put those pieces together at the moment when I need to publish my book.
Yeah.
Very cool. What about translation? You're mentioning translation, and you were saying that PublishDrive can kind of suggest, whether or not a book ought to be translated. Do you help your authors connect them with good translators? Is that a thing?
So we actually can suggest you with some kind of third-party providers who can help you with the translation part. So that's something what we can do. We don't do that in-house, and we don't have any automated solution for that. We know some publishers who are using some automated tools for translating content, but to make sure that your content is not being flagged in the stores, because obviously when it's machine translated, it's not good for the readers, and that's why stores, they don't want it, because machine translation is still not at that point where it could be actually used for commercial purposes as well. So make sure that if you use some kind of tool like that, then you have a professional editing process going through as well, because that's super important to have. And then this way you can speed up the translation process. That's what we could see.
Right.
But whenever some author wants to go to translations, I always suggest that first sell your content in your native language, in English mostly, and go into the local markets with that content, and actually see how they are responding, and whether it's something that they are looking for, because after that you actually can make some translations, you can invest some resources to do that, because in that sense you actually can create a new cover. You might want to actually tweak your cover a bit, with the colors maybe, or something more specific to that area, if you want to localize content. But do that with the most efficiency. I always suggest to first publish your English language content first, and then see after that how you can actually tweak your content.
Interesting. Those are really good tips kind of for everyone. Caitlin's good. Hey, Caitlin's got her pterodactyl baby right there.
I'm sorry. She was being so loud. I'm telling them just bring her here because she won't stop squawking so loud. It was distracting me from what you were saying, Kinga. So yeah, I'm holding her right now.
She wants her mommy. There she is. There she is. Sapphire color. For the listeners, and she's beautiful. She's kind of a baby still.
Yeah, she was born January, so she's still super baby.
Wow.
So, last question about the international markets. Top 2 markets that an author might want to consider getting into that you really see have a lot of growth potential. If you had to pick 2 of them, which would they be?
Definitely India, and also to Southeast Asian markets, and especially Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore. So this area, I think it's really cool to step foot in right now.
Okay, excellent. All right. And then a similar related question, which sales platforms do you see growing? Apple?
So in overall, we can see that there are 4 major types of platforms, like retailers, like as you mentioned, Apple, Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, and so on. Then subscription services, which are basically providing a flat fee for the readers, and based on that, they can read as much as they want. It's similar to Kindle Unlimited. And there are different libraries as well, library providers with schools or public libraries, corporate libraries, so everything what can actually be related to a library and institutions. And then we actually have the regional or international stores. And what we could see that basically every month, especially in the very beginning, libraries had a huge spike. So that kind of growth was insane. Obviously, that flattened in April and in May after that. So it wasn't that high as it was before. So that's also an interesting market to look at, how to sell to different libraries and institutions. But when it comes to retail, we could definitely see that Apple was growing really significantly. Also, Kobo and Google, they were growing really aggressively as well. And some other platforms, when it comes to subscription services like Script, we could see a huge spike in sales with Script, and especially on the international market. So that's super interesting to see that they are focusing from a strategic perspective as well on the international market. So it's really, really cool to see how they are actually altering their strategy. And also from subscription services like Bookmate, they are traditionally coming from the Russian market, but they have a lot of Southeast Asian presence as well. So we could see a huge growth in Indonesia and Philippines from this platform. Then another subscription service might be Dreamy, and they are focusing on Singapore and US market, and also they could see a huge sales. And when it comes to libraries, Overdrive is really high, but also Hoopla, they started to grow really fast in the last couple of months for PublishDrive. And there are other library providers like Gardner's or Mackin. They are also really, really strong in book sales in the last couple of months. So yeah, you have a lot of options when you are searching for growth, and I think it's the right time to publish books, basically for authors or for publishers as well, because all the partners we work with, they are looking for great content at the moment as well.
I did not realize there were so many platforms. Like, I'm not even, like, you just blew my, I'm like, oh, I know that one. I know. Wait. Okay, now we're going down the rabbit hole. Say who?
Yes, there is a lot of different options what you can actually use. And yes, we analyzed our sales data, and we could see as well that Amazon is super important to publish your books on. Obviously, it's about 39% of the sales what we could see based on our data. But if you publish anywhere else, you can actually get a huge, sales and a lot of money what can actually pay your bills from. So it's also important to realize that you have a lot of other options right now. And we actually are working on adding more retailers all the time. So this is something what is in our nature, and our current authors and publishers we work with, they are super thankful that we actually are doing that, because they can see that that's what the whole platform provides, and that's in our DNA, to make sure that if you have a book, you can actually publish it everywhere. And if you have a story, then you have the option to sell it wherever they want to read. And it's super interesting that more and more platforms arise, and also different business models happen. And especially when it comes to subscription and international markets, I think there are a lot of options what you can explore right now.
Every self-publishing author has to make that decision. Am I going to go exclusive with Amazon for Kindle Unlimited and have that benefit of being on Kindle Unlimited, or am I going to go wide? What would you suggest to a new author who's making that choice, or an author who's been maybe on Kindle Unlimited for a long time and they're thinking of going wide? What would you suggest about how to kind of figure out what's the right fit for them?
Yeah, it obviously depends on what kind of genre you are writing and what kind of audience you are trying to build. We actually see some publishers in PublishDrive who are switching every 3 months. So basically, for 3 months, they are on Kindle Unlimited, and then for 3 months, they are with PublishDrive. And they basically do that because they have audiences in Kindle Unlimited as well, and they have audiences, and they are building their audience basically outside of the Kindle Unlimited world also. So it's an interesting strategy. But also, we could see a lot of authors who started with Kindle Unlimited and they were writing in a genre that wasn't really catching up there so much. And then they decided to go wide with us, and then they could find their audience through the different platforms easier. And also with PublishDrive, we provide some tools for you to make it easier and faster. So that's also really important, to use our marketing tools as well with PublishDrive to get review copies for free and DRM protected, or get featured with the different stores, with the different campaigns, what they are planning, because that's something what we actually showcase to everyone who is using the platform, what kind of marketing campaigns the stores are planning, so you can be part of that. And that definitely helps you to get more sales. Or run scheduled price promotions. So if you have a BookBub, for instance, everyone knows that having a BookBub is something what can help you drive more sales. But also, if you are wide, then you can actually have more chance to get a BookBub as well. So we built a price promotion tool within the platform, which basically handles all the admin stuff for the price promotions to get wide, and to make sure that your BookBub is happening. And there is other tools you can use for boost sales. Like, we have actually a built-in Amazon advertising feature, which is enhanced by the AI robot I mentioned, Savan. So it helps you to target easier and faster with the PublishDrive dashboard, basically, and it gives you suggestions what kind of products you should target, or what kind of categories you should target, and so on. So it's really helpful if you are looking for ways how you can optimize your Amazon advertising strategy. And in terms of deciding whether you want to go wide or stay with Kindle Unlimited, it's really, as I mentioned, based on what your content, so what kind of genres you are writing, and how you see yourself on the long term. So I always suggest, if you want to be, a New York Times bestseller author, so if you have that kind of goal, then you definitely have to go wide at some point, because that's how you can get into more stores, you can get more sales as well, and also that's how you can build more credibility with other players on the market. Or if you have the plan to get your book into movies, for instance, that's also really helpful if you have a wide presence. So there are some pros and cons what you can actually think about, but it's, at the end of the day, it's really what your goal is, and if you are to the whole publishing part. Because I'll be honest, it's easier to manage only one platform with Amazon, and then build your audience there, and it works for many authors, and I think it's perfect for them. But there are a lot of other people who have different goals, or who actually want to see how they can perform on other markets, or they just don't see the benefits of Kindle Unlimited because they write in a genre that's not going well there. So
definitely a lot of decisions.
I hope this I hope this helps to answer the question. I know it's not an easy decision to make, but that's what we can see. If you definitely think about yourself, that you are a full-time author for the long term, and then going wide is a good strategy. But don't forget that going wide is a long-term strategy. So it's not something that you are trying out for 90 days and that's all. You can, as I mentioned, you can switch between the two platforms in a long-term way, which is strategic, and then you build both of the platforms at the same time. Or what we actually can see that some publishers or authors who have some of their books in Kindle Unlimited or some of their books in wide aspects with PublishDrive, and that works for them as well. So at the same time, they can build their Kindle Unlimited audience and they can build their wide audience as well.
Yeah, something you just said is super duper key. Anything that you do in the publishing world, I mean, it's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to be a week. It ain't going to be 2 months. I mean, you need to give it time. You need to be patient with it. And do your due diligence, find the different things, do your research, and be patient. And after, 3-6 months, nothing's happening, you've been in KU the whole time, then PublishDrive might be a good option to look into and research, hey, is my genre something that's really popular through PublishDrive, or, any of the other like gazillion platforms that you mentioned. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is absolutely key. You have to give it time.
Yeah, that could be a chance to kind of relaunch your book and go wide and see what that relaunch does in other markets. One kind of hard, sad figure that we keep hearing is that the average book makes about $200 in sales in its lifetime. Are you able to share the average sales figure per title on PublishDrive? Or at least have you seen that figure going up in the past year?
So I don't have that number on my mind, but I have about a rough estimate about how many copies usually are sold. So that might be something easier. So we can see that the average copies sold is about, depending on the genre as well. So that's why it's not easy to say, but it's somewhere between, and it's not about a lifetime. I would say it's in a year. So it's a year lifespan. It's about 500 and 1,000 titles. So it depends on the genre itself. 1,000 copies, sorry. So that's what we can see per title, and it's growing every year as well based on the genre. So that's something what could be interesting to see. And also, as we add more sales platforms all the time, I believe that's adding up to that number as well, because that's why we do it, to make sure that we can actually help get more sales for the authors and for publishers we work with.
Wow, that's
not bad numbers.
Yeah. That's very exciting. And that's from connecting with all those different platforms, connecting with all of those libraries, connecting with all those languages and countries, and that helps the author to be able to get their name out there, get their books out there. That's cool. Well, I think the last question I have, it's not really a question, it's a comment. It's from Jeff Haskell. He says, Kinga is a certified smart person. She gave a speech about artificial intelligence at Oxford. She's really cool.
I love Jeff. Thank you.
He did ask about her platform that allows authors to split their earnings, but I think that's Abacus.
Yes. That's Abacus, yes.
Which I'm going to be looking into, because there's a whole lot of math that I have coming up in the publishing world with my co-author, and that could potentially save us a lot of headaches. So, yeah.
Cool.
Alrighty. Any last minute questions? Questions for Kinga. Questions for Kinga. We are pulling for questions. Going once. Going to. I don't know if they can type this fast, so I'm probably talking way too fast.
We've had comments. Shadow says, she's so cute. I think that's about bird. Greg Hartless says, pretty bird.
I know. I was trying not to let her be a distraction, but she wouldn't stop squawking, so I had to take her.
She's too adorable, and she loves you too much. Loves you and your glasses.
I know. She's always trying to eat them. Thank you, Kinga, for especially putting up with my bird. And coming on, especially at such an early hour, I would be dead to the world right now. Just like, you want me to talk about what? So thank you so much.
You did really, really well.
Thank you for inviting me to the show. It was amazing. Thank you, ladies.
So to all of our viewers, our listeners, where can they super not creepy stalk you? And it could just be, hey, I'm on Publisher's Drive. Here's where it is. It doesn't have to be anything like, well, this is my email. No, it's just, what's your stitch?
So anyone can reach out to me on Facebook as well. So I might be a bit slower to answer, to be honest, sometimes, because that can happen, and I cannot manage messages that easily on Facebook than I do in my email inbox. But I will answer, for sure. So please reach out to me, and I will answer personally. So sometimes people thought that there is a VA who is taking care of that, but no, I'm there. So I will be answering that for sure.
Oh my goodness, y'all! Publisher Drive CEO answering your personal questions. I mean, don't get no better than that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are reaching out to me on LinkedIn as well, because we work with publishing companies also. And there is a lot of people who are active on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to me there as well. So I will definitely answer.
All right, well, you heard it here. Thank you to everyone in the live chat, YouTube viewers, podcast listeners. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you, Sapphire, for coming on the show, I suppose, as well. Let us know what you thought about it in the comments. Click the subscribe button, ding the little bell, hit the like. We want to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We're getting really close. I think we're like 40 away. I think that's like, it's like, oh, I could taste it. All right. And I see I have something extra. Thumbs up, subscribe, and more shows. Join Josh Hayes, Scott Moon, and C. Stephen Manley next week as they chat with, oh, I'm going to kill it. Not in a good way. Derek Kolstad, the writer of blockbuster thriller series John Wick. Check that out Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to be there. I hope y'all are there. For Lauren Moore, I'm Kayleen Williams. Thank you for joining us on your writer's journey. We'll see you next time. Talk about more reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey. Good night, you guys.